Good afternoon, Tom Crabtree here. We are moments away from the start of a news conference from the state's Emergency Operations Center in West Columbia. Governor Henry McMaster, other state leaders expected to give us an update, important new information on the situation with Hurricane Irma, what the state is doing to get ready for this monster of a storm, and what they expect all of us to be doing as well to get ready for it. When the news conference concludes, and we have that information for you, we're also going to bring in Chief Meteorologist Christy Henderson, and she'll give you the latest forecast on the track of Hurricane Irma and its potential effect on the Carolinas. Other information to share with you about what other states are doing will be coming up as well. Let's go to the news conference with Governor McMaster.
Pass along the east coast of Florida Sunday and Sunday night. By Monday morning, there could be some weakening as Irma passes just off the Georgia coast, but Irma is forecast to remain a major hurricane prior to making landfall somewhere along the Georgia or South Carolina coast late Monday or Monday night. Irma is then expected to move northwest across South Carolina while weakening, but even remaining a tropical storm as it moves into the upstate of South Carolina. One thing to remember, changes in track and intensity forecast should be expected as Irma is still 4 days away from making any potential landfall. In terms of impacts, residents and visitors should prepare for significant impacts from Hurricane Irma. Destructive winds are possible along the coast, with potential for winds strong enough to cause damage to trees, power lines, and structures well inland throughout the state. This will result in widespread and possible long-duration power outages. Dangerous storm surge inundation could occur, especially in areas along and east of where the hurricane makes landfall. In these areas, storm surge inundation could cover most barrier islands and even penetrate well inland. Significant amounts of rainfall are possible, especially closer to the coast, and could result in flash flooding. We also want to watch for the potential for river flooding next week as well. Please take this time now to prepare for these potential impacts to the state and follow the advice of local emergency management. Thank you.
Any questions, Mr. Corello, National Weather Service?
Sir, can you talk about rainfall and how it compares to the October flood or even Hurricane Matthew last year?
Yeah, the good news with this storm, it's going to be fairly quick moving, so while we will have high rainfall amounts in some areas of the state, we could see in local amounts over 10 inches of rain in some parts of the state. The storm is not going to sit in one spot for a long time, so it's going to move through. So we can expect to see some localized flooding, but we don't think to the extent of what we saw back in October of 2015 or even last year with Hurricane Matthew.
So winds will be the biggest threat then?
Storm surge along the coast will be a big factor. This is going to be a major hurricane potentially making landfall. And then the winds, yes, the hurricane force winds. And the one thing to remember, these strong winds are going to extend all the way inland throughout the state, where if you look at, Matthew last year, those winds were really focused for coastal areas, so we're going to see those wind impacts farther inland.
How significant do you think the wind impact will be? Let's say if the hurricane is at least the strength of Hugo in the Midlands and maybe even in upstate.
Yeah, I think it's certainly possible, depending on the track and the strength of the storm when it makes landfall, that we could see at least hurricane force wind gusts all the way here in the Midlands, and certainly tropical storm force winds even in the upstate of South Carolina. So that would be certainly enough to produce some damage.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you. Don't go anywhere. We might have something in a minute. I want to thank our team here in South Carolina. We've talked about this before. We've had a lot of practice with these things, and we're as prepared as we can be. But we're still concerned that we want the people to be sure to get prepared. That's the main message that we can deliver, is be prepared and start now. Just imagine that this hurricane will be here in the morning, and do what you need to do right away before something ends up taking a lot of your time or interrupts your preparations and you don't have time to do it, because it is coming. Just so you'll know, we have a lot of talent, a lot of people organized, prepared, and trained to respond and to help keep the citizens and property safe in South Carolina. We have 2,358 state and local law enforcement officers on duty for the evacuation. South Carolina National Guard under General Livingston. Today we have 800 on duty on Sunday. We'll have 2,500, that's 2,500 on Tuesday. There'll be 5,000 National Guard troops out there to keep people safe and secure. We will have 200 Red Cross shelters if needed. We'll also have 2,900 Department of Social Services and Red Cross personnel available. We also, with South Carolina Department of Transportation, will have 1,200 Department of Transportation maintenance personnel working the evacuation routes. So you'll see military uniforms, police uniforms, you'll see a lot of uniformed personnel all along these roads, particularly at the exits, the entrances to the highways, the intersections, to tell everyone where to go if there's any question. But one thing we urge people to do is look up your evacuation route. Find out where it is that you're supposed to go, depending on the part of the state you're in. We're roughly divided into 3 different regions. The southern region is down around Beaufort and Jasper, and then you get up to the middle region around Charleston and up towards Georgetown, and then Georgetown and on up Horry is the northern region. And all of those have certain routes, certain roads that have been designated as evacuation routes. And those are the roads that you should take, no matter what they say on Google or anything else. Follow those evacuation signs. And one of those signs is right there. That's what it looks like. And they're the same everywhere all over the state. If you're on one of those roads from wherever you are, one of those highways, you're in the right place. And you'll see at intersections, you'll see uniformed personnel, you'll see vehicles, and they will be there to assist as well. But what we want to do is people to understand where they're supposed to go, how they get from where they are to getting on up to the upstate, and try to move briskly and understand where you're going before you start. So now is the time to do that. This map depicts some of these roads. We'll have more explanation about that in a minute, but those are the ones to follow. Also, we will at some point, we will have a reversal of lanes on I-26, and we will also have reversal of lanes around Myrtle Beach and also around Beaufort for a few miles there, but I-26 will be reversed all the way from Charleston up until I-77 in Columbia. And that will take place, we believe, at about 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, at which time that would be the same time that if things are going as they're going now without much change, that will be the time that the evacuation order, which I will issue, will take place, will be effective. That is, as of 10 o'clock this Saturday morning. I've issued an executive order today requiring the owners of 2,370 public and private dams in South Carolina to immediately begin lowering the water levels as necessary to accommodate heavy rain levels. What that means under the law is they should go examine the dams, understand that rain is coming, make a decision as to how much water should be left in that, behind that dam, and lower it appropriately. And if that is not done, we have the authority for DHEC to go and help them do it, and do it themselves if the owners refuse to do it or are not able to do it. On health care facilities, I've issued an executive order today requiring the evacuation of facilities along the coast in the potential impact zones along the coast. This is nursing homes, health care facilities, from Hurricane Irma as of 2 o'clock today. That order takes effect as of 2 o'clock today. Where are those? What counties are they in? Those facilities, health care facilities, are located in the counties of Jasper, Beaufort, Colleton, Dorchester, Charleston, Berkeley, Georgetown, and Horry. I'll repeat them. The counties of Jasper, Beaufort, Colleton, Dorchester, Charleston, Berkeley, Georgetown, and Horry. That is where the health care facilities need to begin evacuation as of 2 o'clock today, which is just passed. What is a health care facility? A health care facility includes hospitals, nursing homes, assisted living facilities, alcohol and substance abuse hospitals, and other similar types which are listed in the executive order. I'll say it again. Those healthcare facilities include hospitals, nursing homes, assisted living facilities, alcohol and substance abuse hospitals, and other similar types which are listed in the executive order. As I mentioned, I intend to issue an evacuation order which will take place as things now stand at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning. It is also at that time that the lane reversals on I-26 and several of the other roads in the other zones will have their lane reversals beginning to be in effect. And that means you will not be able to get on the road at the end at which the traffic is flowing. All the lanes will be going in one direction. Also, it's likely that I will announce tomorrow that schools and government offices will be closed on Monday, September the 11th and Tuesday, September the 12th in some or all of the 46 counties in the state. Again, I will announce tomorrow, it's likely that schools and state government offices will be closed on Monday, September the 11th. Remember, we're expecting the storm we start feeling some strong winds on Sunday evening, Sunday night, and we expect to feel the full brunt of it on Monday. So we expect to close those schools on Monday, September the 11th, and Tuesday, September the 12th, in some or all of the counties. Why would we close the schools away from the coast on up in towards the upstate? That's because we're going to have a lot of people trying to get away from the coast and to go to the Midlands and the upstate. So we can't have school buses and children and a lot of traffic there. We're trying to clear it out as much as we can to allow this flow of traffic to go unimpeded. And there's one other thing to remember. Since 1999, we've not had a hurricane come to South Carolina after first traveling up the coast from Florida through Georgia and then to us. What that means is we are already experiencing additional high levels of traffic from those states coming into our state to escape the storm and to get to safer ground. So as that storm proceeds on, there'll be more and more people from Georgia and from Florida coming through South Carolina, which will add to the burden on our highways. So what we urge everyone to do is get prepared. If you can leave now, go ahead. But be sure, as we tell everybody, be prepared. Remember to put your important papers, particularly insurance papers. If you have insurance on your home, you might want to have those papers handy. Any valuable photographs, photograph albums, valuables. Remember to turn off the stove. Do a lot of simple things like that as you leave your home. Remember your pets. Have food, medicine for yourself, but also for your pets. Have leashes for your pets. Inform your relatives of where you plan to go. Lock your house, apartment, business. Be sure to have your credit cards, any kind of identification you think you may need. And remember, we do not know when you will be able to come back to your home or your office. But until it is declared safe to do so by the local authorities, and we will alert you to that as well, you will not be allowed to go back to your home or your office. So lock it up tight and leave, and be sure to take what you must have with you. We are informed by the Petroleum Association about gas supply. There may be some spot shortages, temporary shortages, but we do not think we could run out of gas. The stations are being resupplied. The worst thing that we can do is panic and everybody run out and get more gas and fill up a lot of containers and things that they're really not going to need. If we have a deliberate but constant process that is set out by these signs and by the directions and the instructions and information that we'll be disseminating, we ought to be able to have a good, orderly process that will keep us all safe and secure and protect our property. So that's the beginning of this message. Does anyone have any questions for me before we go farther?
Yes, I'm unclear. Or have you actually ordered an evacuation? Or are you
No,
saying?
ma'am.
Okay.
Not yet.
Just a healthcare.
Right, but you said 10 a.m. Saturday.
That's right. That is if I order an evacuation, that is the time at which it will go into effect, at 10 o'clock Saturday morning.
And
Saturday morning. Same thing for the reversal of the roads.
Will that be a mandatory evacuation?
Yes, ma'am.
and the coastal counties that you listed that are already ordered for healthcare facilities,
Right.
would those be the counties that would be impacted by the 10 a.m. evacuation on Saturday, or would it be more of the state?
No, that will be described fully later, but we will have to judge the storm. It would probably be unlikely, in response to your question, from somebody from Oconee County to evacuate. But
Governor, you're
yes,
talking about funneling people away from the storm into Columbia and the upstate. Is there any concern that the track could come up to Columbia and on up to the upstate? Because those very people that are trying to get away?
yes, there is. That's why we're urging people to go ahead and go right now if you can. Go as soon as you can. I mean, there's no prohibition in the law for somebody to leave right now. Before we go too far, maybe some of these others will answer some of these questions as we go forward. General Livingston.
The governor talked about the movement of personnel. Just want to kind of give you a summary of that. We have activated 800 National Guardsmen to do planning and to assist the Highway Patrol and DOT in lane reversal at traffic control points. In addition to that force, we are planning on bringing on other forces into the state, not just National Guard, but reaching out to other states through our EMAC agreements to bring in rescue teams, to bring in logistical teams, shortfalls that we may have with a Category 3 to 4 hurricane. And we will plan for this. This should be a Category 3 or less, but we will plan for a Category 4 as far as resources. So we will already identify those resources. Within the state, we are moving resources starting tomorrow to prepare for evacuation of the shoreline and to assist citizens. We will then continue to deploy forces forward to help with recovery efforts as we anticipate what the storm is going to do. And those, so you'll see a lot of different forces, military forces. We have contacted the Department of Defense, Northern Command. We have access to federal forces, federal military forces, as well as civilian and other agencies from states around us. So we are planning, like I said, for a Category 4 storm, and we should be well prepared from the state perspective.
Thank you, General. Secretary Hall.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Thank you, Governor. As the Governor mentioned, we are starting to see the impacts of our neighboring states' traffic flowing this way. I-95 in particular, we're starting to see some very heavy traffic flows on that section of interstate coming out of the Georgia area. Our travel speeds on I-95 near the Georgia border are somewhere in the neighborhood of about 15 to 20 miles per hour, so it is congested currently, moving up towards the Columbia area, going forward across the state. We're seeing similar delays on the I-20 and I-85 corridors coming in, again, from the Georgia area. We've estimated that approximately 27,000 additional vehicles have entered the state from the I-95 area above and beyond what our historical numbers have been since midnight on Tuesday. As the Governor mentioned, it's imperative that you prepare for your trip whenever you evacuate the area, food, fuel, medicine, etc. We ask that you be patient. As we already mentioned, there is congestion on some of the roads currently. There will be heavy traffic, and it will be slow moving in some of these areas. But we are preparing to assist motorists move through the area with signage, folks directing traffic, signal adjustments, looking at message boards. We've moved forward with implementing comfort stations, which means water and additional restroom facilities at our rest areas all across the state in order to accommodate the increase. We also intend to deploy our State Highway Emergency Patrol units, our SHEP units, to assist motorists as we go along throughout the event in case there's a breakdown or any other issue that a motorist needs to help get out of the way of the traffic and or get to the next stop. Again, as the governor mentioned, use your designated evacuation route. This plan is only going to work for us if it's dispersed traffic. So know your map, understand which route is closest to you and makes the best sense to get out of the area. And you can view those either at the SCEMD website or the SCDOT website, which is also linked on the EMD page. I encourage South Carolinians to sign up for our 511 app. And also, we have resources available at our 1-800 number, which is 1-855-GO-SCDOT, which is 1-855-467-2368, and we will be more than happy to provide personalized travel assistance to any person in our state. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, ma'am. Director Smith.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon, everyone. As the Governor mentioned earlier, we have over 2,300 law enforcement officers and South Carolina National Guard personnel assisting with our evacuation efforts. The Governor also mentioned earlier about the regional evacuation zones. We have 3. The northern zone in the Horry County area, the central zone coming out of Charleston, and the southern zone in the Beaufort County area. I could not overstate the importance of following your evacuation zones. Please know your evacuation zones. You can go to the EMD website, the SCDOT website, the SCDPS website, and it will forward you to a link to the EMD website. Those zones are designed not to interfere with the other regional evacuation zones. They are designed to get you at least 100 miles inland to get you to a place of refuge. In addition to our local evacuation zones, we have 4 lane reversal routes, and the governor mentioned it earlier. We plan to do that Saturday morning. Those 4 routes are US 501 in the Horry County area, I-26 in Charleston, as the governor mentioned, from Charleston to Columbia, US 21 in Beaufort County, as well as that's Beaufort, and US 278 in Hilton Head. Again, please follow your evacuation orders. I would like to direct your attention to this sign here. Please, if your area is designated to evacuate, please follow that sign and not this, not the cell phone, not the GPS. Those things could change. GPS could take you to an area that is not designated as an evacuation route. So please follow the evacuation sign and not the GPS. And on a final note, just 3 points again. 1, please know your evacuation zone. 2, please be patient. We know that our roads will probably face maximum capacity. It's going to take longer than normal to get to your destination, so please be careful. And 3rd, please be prepared. The governor mentioned some things before. Make sure you have a full tank of gas, a cell phone with a charged battery, water, supplies for the kids, medicines, and so forth. Just please be prepared. That's all. Thank you.
And for example, on I-26, when the lanes are reversed, if you're on the west side, you may not be able to see the signs indicating what is available at that exit. So we're going to try to have the signage out there to reflect that, but you need to be aware that you'll have to be on the lookout for that, because as you know already, they don't have filling stations and food and restrooms at every exit anyway. But if you're on the wrong side, on the west side of I-26, and you're headed on to Columbia and points north, you may not be able to see those signs. You're certainly not going to be able to get to those exits on the right-hand side of the road, so you'd be going up the wrong way on the exit that used to come in to the southbound or eastbound lanes. So just be aware that you're going to need to be on the lookout. We'll try to have plenty of signage out there. But again, for what the Director of Public Safety, Leroy Smith, said, those signs have stood the test of time. They work. Those routes work. They've been tested. The roads are clear. They've been ridden recently to be sure that they're all open, clear, everything's on them working, no obstructions. And if we follow those signs, and you'll still have to be a little patient even on all of those roads, there are a lot of them. be patient and follow those signs, and you'll be safe, because there'll be regular patrol, there'll be officers, military and law enforcement, all up and down these routes that have been selected as evacuation routes, and including I-26. They'll be all over the place. If you get off on some other road somewhere, you might be out there by yourself and stuck with a tree or high water or something else, and you might not be able to get back where you want to go. So just stick. We've got a great plan. Your team in South Carolina has done a fine job in preparation, and we're about as ready as we can be on this side, but we want the citizens to be prepared. Start now. Start thinking about what you're going to do, and get yourself ready to go, and go as soon as you can. If this storm doesn't dramatically change direction and go out to sea, we're going to have to be evacuating, certainly no later than early Saturday morning. So, are there any more questions? Yes,
How long will lane reversals last?
yes, sir.
Well, one thing that we don't want is to put our responders in harm's way. So worst case scenario, we will demobilize well before the onset of tropical storm force winds, because as we know, we don't want to, again, put our responders in peril, and we need to retrieve that equipment for not only the next event, but for the post-landfall response.
What that means is these people are not going to be out there when it's full blast of the hurricane. They're going to be gone just like everybody else. So that's why we have to start now.
How many health facilities and patients are impacted? Any idea?
Where's the DHEC? Mr. Wilson?
Thank you, Governor.
Mr. Wilson from DHEC.
There are 143 inpatient health care facilities in the counties and evacuation zones that have been identified in the order that the governor has issued today.
Any idea how many patients?
I'll have to find that number and get to you. I don't have that with me.
Any special measures you're taking to get those patients out?
We are contacting and working with each one of those facilities. They all have a plan for evacuation. We're in contact with them as they implement those plans.
Has DHEC recently evaluated those plans to ensure that, for example, they don't all have the same, transportation service contracted to take patients to safety?
We work closely with the transportation facilities, entities as well, to make sure that those are available.
For someone else, but do we have an update on the mass transportation plan this time? Buses to the coast?
Ms. Kim Stimpson.
We have the governor authorized us to execute the contract for that. So we're working with the counties to find out exactly what their needs are. We could be talking about as many as 10,000 people being transported through that system, and that'll be refined over the next day or so in terms of that.
I was contacted today by somebody who wanted to know how to get his brother out of Myrtle Beach. Who should folks contact if they need a ride and want to evacuate?
They should talk to their local emergency managers.
And they can find all that information on your website.
Our website has all the contact information, and as been mentioned before, we've got all the Know Your Zone information on there. People can type in their address and work through that process.
And if you forget that, call the sheriff.
Right.
Governor, could you clarify exactly what you're ordering 10 o'clock Saturday morning? What evacuations are being ordered?
Well, the exact geographic location we don't know, because we don't know the strength of the storm. We know it's going to be strong, but we don't know how strong. The other thing that we don't know how many people we're going to have coming through in addition to the people that are already in South Carolina. That's totally unknown. We know that it's up. Traffic on I-95 yesterday was up about 40%. So those are two unknowns. We have a lot more people on the roads, and that's going to slow things down. And also, we don't know how strong the storm is going to be and what areas of the state will be under the mandatory evacuation. But what that means is, as of Saturday, 10 o'clock, assuming that is the time in which the mandatory evacuation order goes into effect, you need to start getting on out.
But it would be coastal counties to start, or are you looking more
It'll be at least coastal counties, and it may be more than that. We'll have the order prepared, reflecting the best information at the time of where the trouble is going to be, influenced by the storm.
And you're still thinking you'll make that call tomorrow?
We'll be studying, yes, but we'll be thinking and gathering information right up until the time we issue the order.
Governor, have you talked to Governor Deal and Governor Scott about coordinating at all in terms of, as you talked about, the I-95 uptick in traffic? Is there anything being done with Florida and Georgia?
I've talked to Governor Scott. I've not talked to Governor Deal, but I know there's been a lot of communication between these offices and the other offices.
Is there anything being done to try to mitigate the amount of traffic that is on I-95?
Well, they're doing a lot of the same things we're doing. Director Smith.
Yeah, we've been coordinating with Georgia State Patrol, and historically, with respect to our plans, we try not to send traffic south on I-95. We do not like to interfere with their evacuation efforts, and we ask them to evacuate their traffic west, preferably on I-16, just in the Savannah area. So if they evacuate west, we would not evacuate south to interfere with their efforts, and hopefully their efforts won't interfere with ours.
Is your understanding that is now happening or will happen in the future? Have Georgia and Florida started to ask their residents to evacuate west as opposed to up I-95?
Well, again, they can ask their residents to evacuate west. That doesn't always mean that they will do that. We can ask our residents not to evacuate south. That doesn't mean that they're going to heed to those warnings. But generally, that's the game plan, for us not to evacuate south and for them to evacuate west, so we're not interfering with each other's evacuation efforts.
I have a storm surge question. At the worst case scenario, how much do we think the storm surge could be?
That's kind of difficult to answer this far out. Potential's there for significant storm surge. I think we prefer to leave it at that until we have a better idea of the track and the intensity of the storm as it approaches the coast. But we'll be working very closely with the National Hurricane Center over the next day or two to come up with good, reliable numbers that people can expect. But I can tell you, if it is a major hurricane making landfall anywhere where the eye makes landfall or to the right of the landfall point, would experience some significant storm surge, which again could extend well inland from the coast in some locations.
And that, to the right, he's speaking as if you're out in the ocean looking
Correct.
at...
So if it makes landfall in the southern part of the state, anywhere up the South Carolina coast, would have the greatest impact from the storm surge because the winds are moving onshore in those locations.
And it also depends a little bit on whether it's high tide or low tide. There is a full moon out there, so that increases the depth.
And Governor, have you spoken to the President yet, and is there an update on the disaster declaration?
No, I've spoken to the Chief of Staff, General Kelly, and they are well aware of our situation.
Could this be a full coastal evacuation rather
Yes,
than
ma'am.
partial?
As far as the shelters go, you mentioned that they'll open as soon as any evacuation order takes place. So are we looking at sometime Friday that the shelters might be open, timed with the announcement of an evacuation order, or would it be Saturday morning at 10 a.m.?
Well, a lot of the shelters will be in the schools, so of course they can't start until the schools are empty. So that would depend on the local speed that they can accomplish, but we expect them to start open, many of them to be open on Saturday. More questions? Yes, sir.
For Secretary Hall, what shape are the roads in to take all this additional traffic and water?
Well, as far as the traffic goes, we're constantly monitoring that. We have real-time data on our traffic volumes, speeds, and the number of vehicles on our interstate facilities and our major routes. So we're constantly monitoring that and looking to mitigate any kind of traffic jams as quickly as possible. So we're looking at that real time. Road conditions, I mean, they are what they are at this point in time, and so as the governor and Director Smith mentioned, we have gone out and looked at all the evacuation routes, make sure that the roads are in all passable condition, good condition, and we've restricted any kind of road work on these particular routes going forward. So the lanes should be clear and open and ready to receive the traffic.
I have a wind question. For those that are inland, should there be any concern for those that may be living in mobile homes or structures that may not be as sound as brick or anything else?
I think the local emergency managers would be best to give advice on that, but I will say, there is a threat for some strong, potentially hurricane-force wind gusts well inland, and we haven't seen that in quite some time here in the state. So, generally people shelter and protect themselves from the wind, don't evacuate from the wind, but if you're, obviously feel you're in an unsafe location, then you might need to consider going elsewhere. But the winds will be a factor. I think the biggest issue we need to worry about is trees and power lines that are all going to be coming down, and then potential power outages that might result from that. And it could be fairly widespread, and we could be talking some long-duration power outages if the the hurricane or even tropical storm force winds are as extensive as we're expecting.
I'd like to remind people, once the wind has gone away and the water has subsided, that does not mean that everybody will be able to go home or go to their office, because you have power lines down, you have roads blocked, no telling what sort of situation there'll be. So we are relying on part of our team here in South Carolina. That's the county sheriffs and the local management people to provide the information along with the information we have to see when the all clear can be given. But that's one more reason to take what you need with you, have it with you, because we don't know when we'll be able to go home.
Do you have any idea the number of hospitals in the evacuation zones and how the process will go for that?
Mr. Wilson?
I do not have the exact number of hospitals. Again, we'll be contacting each one of them about their evacuation plan and what they intend to do and how they'll be moving their patients.
So wait a minute, the 143 that you mentioned earlier, what did that?
That included hospitals, nursing homes.
That's everybody.
That's everybody,
Okay.
Yes. All those that had inpatients.
Okay.
Sorry. Excuse me.
That's all right. More questions?
Where are we at on the evacuation timeline in terms of hour? Maybe Director Stinson would know.
Yes. According to our plan, we're right on track right now. So one of the things we'll do tomorrow is the State Emergency Operations Center will move to OPCON 3 and will be fully activated. But according to our plan, we're right on schedule.
So we're clear, when you plan to call for the evacuations, would you do that tomorrow at this time, or would that be Saturday morning?
We'll wait and see when we have the best information, because we want to base that on all the facts, all the information we have at the time. But we're confident that, not 99% sure, I would say, 99% sure that it will take effect at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning.
Governor, may I say
Yes,
something
sir.
about that?
General?
The evacuation is timed so that there is enough time to completely evacuate all the necessary people in the allotted time. So what we do is we take the onset of winds and back it up is basically 48 hours, 2 full daylight periods. And so that's kind of how we get on that Saturday morning piece, and that takes us through Sunday. And then you're looking at the tropical force winds sometime early Monday morning, and then that's when we start closing those lanes. So it gives you an idea that there's plenty of time to evacuate, but if you want to get out early, that's not a bad idea either.
General Livingston, you said yesterday that the responders who had gone to Texas were coming back. Have they all arrived back now? Are they all in South Carolina?
All of our responders are back except a small control cell. We have also a piece that we don't always see is that we have troops that are deployed into combat in Afghanistan and other places. We're replacing them with light troops from other unaffected states. So as far as our capabilities, we're basing our requirements on what the storm requirements are, not what we happen to have in state. If we don't have it, we're bringing it from an unaffected state.
Governor, is there any concern at the federal level, given everything that's still going on in terms of the recovery efforts with Harvey, given how this is going to affect several states along the coast, Florida, Georgia, South Carolina, about the amount of resources that the federal government has to be addressing all of these different situations at once?
No, sir. Any more questions? Thank you for coming.
All right, Governor Henry McMaster, other state leaders have shared a lot of information with us in this news conference from West Columbia that's just concluding right now. The bottom line, the governor says he anticipates issuing an executive order for an evacuation, issuing that order probably sometime tomorrow, that the order probably would take place at 10 o'clock on Saturday morning, and lane reversals would begin then too to evacuate the coast and potentially other counties as well. We'll find out about that in the order that the governor issues. But the lane reversals would involve US 501 out of Myrtle Beach, Interstate 26 all the way from Charleston to Columbia, US 21 in Beaufort County, and also US 278 out of Hilton Head. All of those would be part of the lane reversal to get people away from the coast, potentially more counties than just the coast. Christy Henderson, our chief meteorologist, is with me now. She has the very latest meteorological information on what Irma is doing. What do you think?
Yeah, well, it's going to start to impact South Carolina in 4 days. And so it's good that people are taking action now, because you need that good weather in order to evacuate and get people out of the way. And so we have time to track it. It's still a very powerful hurricane and still a Category 5. If we check out the graphics, we'll show you what it looks like on satellite. It is north of Hispaniola, north of Haiti and the Dominican Republic, and it is already starting to bring some hurricane force winds to the Turks and Caicos. Clouds increasing and winds will be increasing over the southeastern Bahamas tonight. Here's the latest forecast track that we have on this storm. It is expected to maintain that Category 5 intensity as we head through the course of tonight and on through the day tomorrow. And then as we get into the day on Monday, again, that's when we expect to actually see those impacts really starting to take hold into South Carolina, and it's forecast to still be a tropical storm as the path carries it over the upstate. So we may see some changes in the track, and that's going to bring huge changes to what we end up seeing in the western Carolinas.
So the governor also telling us that, and this isn't an order from him yet, but it is possible that he might ask that the schools be closed in all potentially all 46 counties in the state on Monday and Tuesday, so that everyone could just kind of hunker down and be ready for whatever the storm brings.
Yeah, that's right. And if we see tropical storm force winds in the upstate along with some rain, you can imagine that after a while that could saturate the soil.
Yes.
And right now the potential is there for 2 to 4 inches of rain. So if you add saturated soil and get some pretty good wind gusts of over 39 and 45 miles an hour somewhere in that neighborhood, that's going to be enough to push some trees over. And so even here away from the coast, we expect that there would probably be some power outages, some trees coming down associated with the system that will be in the area, but still maintaining some strength. So the strength, the speed that it makes its landfall, assuming it does, all that plays a role in what everybody sees in South Carolina.
I believe I heard them say that they're expecting it to be Category 3 when it hits, but preparing for Category 4.
Preparing for a 4, and to be a 4, it's got to have winds of 130 miles per hour, and right now the expectation is that it would have somewhere around 120 mile an hour winds. So if it stays on the path that's the current Hurricane Center forecast, we could be looking at a major hurricane making landfall in South Carolina or southeast Georgia. But if it travels 50 miles to the west, it could be over the state of Florida. That could change the whole picture. So it's best to be prepared.
So path still means a lot.
Path means an awful lot. We will probably see some changes just a little bit one way or the other, which of course makes a difference.
So the bottom line here, we're anticipating an evacuation order from the governor tomorrow. He hasn't given that order yet. He's done pretty much everything but issue the order. But he's saying that there will be lane reversals, evacuation of the coastal counties, perhaps even more counties a little further inland, effective at 10 o'clock on Saturday. That's when he expects that order to take effect. The order, though, again, has not been issued yet. We anticipate that happening tomorrow. The potential for schools to be closed on Monday and Tuesday as well. They also told us all to be braced for a lot more traffic on the roads as people from other parts of the country south of us and from the coastal areas find a way out.
And that's what he was saying about the schools being closed even in and around the upstate, because there's so many people that are going to be coming in and moving around that he wants to make sure that all the children are safe and everybody can get where they need to be safely.
And all people, if you're in touch with someone who needs to evacuate, tell them to be sure and bring everything they're going to need for a while, because the governor noted that with the damage that is potential in all of this, it could be a while before the people are going to be allowed to go back to their homes, back to their businesses, because just because the storm is gone, it doesn't mean that things are safe to get back in yet.
Yeah, and unlike Hurricane Matthew last year, when it made a landfall but really impacted mainly the coast and points east, this one is going to be moving inland most likely. likely. And so it is going to bring some better chances of more widespread damage that will take time to repair. If a tree's blocking a road, you can't get out, and emergency crews can't get right in there to fix things.
Don't be fooled by the great weather we've got coming up
That's right.
the next few days. That's a blessing to all of us that we have time and opportunity to get ready and to take care of whatever business needs to be taken care of. We're going to have much more coming up about the situation with Irma, our local weather forecast as well. Coming up tonight when you join us for 7 News beginning at 5 o'clock. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you then. Back to regular programming now.